Cherubim! Cherubim are not the small, winged baby figures often seen in art. In the Bible, they are powerful, throne-bearing beings associated directly with the presence of God. In Genesis, cherubim guard the entrance to the Garden of Eden after Adam and Eve are expelled, blocking access to the tree of life with a flaming sword. In Exodus, golden cherubim are placed on the Ark of the Covenant, symbolizing God's throne on earth. The prophet Ezekiel gives the most detailed description. He describes beings with 4 faces: human, lion, ox, and eagle, along with 4 wings and legs that gleam like burnished bronze. They move without turning and are accompanied by wheels filled with eyes. Their role is not decorative. They function as guardians of divine holiness and as carriers of God's glory, representing power, intelligence, strength, and sovereignty.
Seraphim! Seraphim appear in the Bible only in Isaiah chapter 6, where the prophet describes a vision of God seated on a high and exalted throne. The seraphim stand above him, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they cover their faces, with 2 they cover their feet, and with 2 they fly. Their name comes from a Hebrew word meaning burning ones, suggesting brightness, fire, or intense purity. They continually call out, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts," declaring God's absolute holiness. Their voices shake the temple, and smoke fills the space. One seraph touches Isaiah's lips with a burning coal from the altar to cleanse him from sin. Unlike cherubim, who are often connected to guarding and throne imagery, seraphim are portrayed as worshiping beings who exist in direct proximity to God's glory, emphasizing purification and reverence.
Ophanim, wheels. The Ophanim, often called wheels, appear in the visions of the prophet Ezekiel. They are not separate from the cherubim, but move alongside them as part of the same heavenly scene. Ezekiel describes wheels intersecting within wheels, allowing movement in any direction without turning. Their rims are tall and awe-inspiring, and they are covered entirely with eyes. These eyes symbolize awareness and perception, suggesting that nothing escapes divine sight. The wheels move in perfect coordination with the cherubim, rising when they rise and stopping when they stop. The spirit of the living creatures is said to be within the wheels, linking them directly to God's throne. The imagery emphasizes mobility and sovereignty. God is not confined to one location. His presence moves wherever he wills. The Ophanim reinforce the idea of divine omniscience and unstoppable authority.
The 4 living creatures. The 4 living creatures appear most clearly in the book of Revelation and are closely connected to the vision described in Ezekiel. In Revelation 4, they surround God's throne and worship him continuously. Each creature has a distinct appearance, one like a lion, one like an ox, one with a face like a man, and one like a flying eagle. Each has 6 wings and is covered with eyes all around, even under their wings. They never stop declaring God's holiness, repeating, "Holy, holy, holy," day and night. These beings combine characteristics of strength, service, intelligence, and swiftness. Many scholars see them as symbolic representations of all creation praising God. Their constant worship and their terrifying multi-eyed forms emphasize the majesty and otherness of the heavenly throne room described in Revelation.
Nephilim. The Nephilim are briefly mentioned in Genesis 6, just before the story of the flood. The text says that the sons of God took human women as wives, and their offspring were called the Nephilim. They are described as mighty men of old, men of renown. The Hebrew word may be connected to the idea of fallen ones, though its exact meaning is debated. One interpretation is that the sons of God were rebellious spiritual beings who produced hybrid offspring with humans. Another view is that they were powerful human rulers or warriors who oppressed others. The Nephilim are also mentioned in Numbers 13, when Israelite spies report seeing giants in Canaan and describe themselves as grasshoppers by comparison. Their presence is associated with corruption and violence, which the Genesis account says filled the earth before the flood.
Rephaim are described in the Old Testament as a group of ancient giants who lived in Canaan before the Israelites entered the land. They are mentioned in books such as Deuteronomy and Joshua. In some passages, they are linked to specific regions, including Bashan, where King Og ruled. Og is described as having an enormous iron bed, suggesting extraordinary size.
The word Rephaim can also refer to shades or spirits of the dead in certain poetic texts, such as Isaiah and Psalms. This dual meaning has led to debate about whether the term refers strictly to giant warriors, departed spirits, or both in different contexts. In historical narratives, they are presented as formidable enemies who were eventually defeated. Their reputation for great size and strength contributed to the fear surrounding the conquest of Canaan.
Anakim. The Anakim are another group of giants mentioned in the Old Testament. They are described as descendants of Anak and are associated with the land of Canaan, particularly around Hebron. When the Israelite spies explored the land in Numbers 13, they reported seeing the Anakim and compared them to the Nephilim. The spies said the Anakim were so large that the Israelites felt like grasshoppers in comparison. Their intimidating size became a symbol of fear and doubt among the people of Israel. While most of the Anakim were later driven out during the conquest under Joshua, some remained in cities such as Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod. Goliath, the Philistine warrior defeated by David, is often linked to this giant tradition. The Anakim represent the human side of biblical terror, visible enemies whose physical strength seemed overwhelming.
Leviathan. Leviathan is described in poetic and prophetic books as a massive sea creature of terrifying power. In Job 41, it is portrayed as untamable, breathing fire, with scales so tightly sealed that no weapon can pierce them. Its presence churns the sea into foam, and it leaves a shining wake behind it. The description emphasizes strength beyond human control. In Psalms and Isaiah, Leviathan is also depicted as a twisting serpent or dragon-like creature associated with chaos. Some scholars view it as a symbol of destructive forces opposed to God, possibly connected to ancient Near Eastern sea monster myths. Others interpret it as a powerful, real animal described in exaggerated language. In every case, Leviathan represents chaos, danger, and the limits of human power, highlighting God's authority over even the most fearsome forces.
Behemoth. Behemoth is described in Job 40 as a massive land creature created by God. The passage presents it as one of the greatest works of divine power. It eats grass like an ox, yet its strength is said to be in its muscles and bones, which are compared to bars of iron. Its tail is described as moving like a cedar tree, a phrase that has sparked debate about its identity. Some interpret behemoth as a poetic description of a known animal, such as a hippopotamus or elephant, emphasizing its size and power. Others argue the language suggests something even more extraordinary. The creature drinks up a river without fear and remains unshaken by raging waters. Like Leviathan, Behemoth demonstrates that there are forces within creation far beyond human control, underscoring God's unmatched sovereignty over the natural world.
Demons, unclean spirits. In the New Testament, demons are often called unclean spirits. They are described as malevolent spiritual beings that afflict individuals with physical suffering, mental torment, or destructive behavior. Unlike the symbolic creatures of poetic books, these beings are presented as active forces interacting directly with people. The Gospels frequently record encounters between Jesus and individuals possessed by unclean spirits. These spirits recognize Jesus' authority and fear his commands. When confronted, they often speak through the possessed person and beg not to be cast out or sent away. Their influence includes causing seizures, self-harm, muteness, and extreme isolation. The term unclean reflects moral and spiritual impurity, not physical dirtiness. In biblical theology, demons represent rebellious spiritual powers opposed to God's purposes, yet always subject to divine authority.
Legion. Legion appears in the Gospels as the name given by a group of demons possessing a man in the region of the Gerasenes. When Jesus asks the spirit's name, the reply is, "Legion, for we are many." The term legion was a Roman military word referring to thousands of soldiers, suggesting an overwhelming number of spirits inhabiting one individual. The possessed man lived among tombs, isolated and uncontrollable. He broke chains and harmed himself, displaying extreme strength and distress. When Jesus commands the spirits to leave, they beg to enter a nearby herd of pigs. The pigs then rush into the sea and drown. This account emphasizes both the destructive nature of demonic forces and the absolute authority Jesus exercises over them. The name Legion highlights the scale of the oppression and the seriousness of spiritual conflict.
Abaddon, Apollyon, appears in the book of Revelation as the angel of the abyss. In Revelation 9, he is described as the king over the locust-like creatures that rise from the bottomless pit during a time of judgment. His name is given in both Hebrew and Greek, Abaddon in Hebrew and Apollyon in Greek. Both names carry the meaning destroyer. Unlike symbolic beasts that represent political or cosmic forces, Abaddon is presented as a ruling figure over destructive beings. He is associated with the abyss, a place connected to confinement of demonic powers. The imagery portrays him not as a random monster, but as an organized leader of destruction during apocalyptic events. His role reinforces themes of judgment and spiritual warfare found throughout Revelation, where terrifying imagery communicates the seriousness of divine justice. The dragon. The dragon appears prominently in Revelation 12 and is explicitly identified as Satan, also called the ancient serpent. It is described as a great red dragon with 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon its heads. Its tail sweeps a third of the stars from the sky and casts them to the earth, symbolizing large-scale rebellion and destruction. The dragon stands ready to devour a child destined to rule the nations, representing opposition to God's redemptive plan. Later, a war breaks out in heaven, and the dragon is cast down to the earth. The imagery portrays not just a frightening creature, but the personification of cosmic evil. The multiple heads and horns symbolize authority and power, while the red color suggests violence and bloodshed. The dragon embodies spiritual deception, accusation, and hostility toward God and humanity.
The beast from the sea. The beast from the sea appears in Revelation 13. It rises out of the ocean with 10 horns and 7 heads, similar to the dragon, and each horn carries a crown. On its heads are blasphemous names. Its appearance combines features of a leopard, a bear, and a lion, drawing imagery from earlier prophetic visions in the book of Daniel. The dragon gives this beast its power, throne, and great authority. One of its heads appears to suffer a mortal wound that is healed, causing the world to marvel and follow it. The beast exercises authority over nations and demands worship. Those who refuse face persecution. This figure is commonly interpreted as representing a powerful political or imperial system empowered by evil forces. It symbolizes oppressive authority that exalts itself against God.
The beast from the earth, false prophet. The beast from the earth also appears in Revelation 13. Unlike the beast from the sea, this one rises from the land and has 2 horns like a lamb, but speaks like a dragon. The lamb-like appearance suggests gentleness or innocence, yet its speech reveals allegiance to the dragon. This contrast highlights deception. The beast from the earth exercises authority on behalf of the first beast and directs people to worship it. It performs signs, even calling down fire from heaven to persuade the world. It also causes people to receive a mark associated with loyalty to the beast from the sea. Because of its role in promoting false worship and deception, it is later identified as the false prophet. This creature represents religious or ideological power that supports oppressive authority and leads people away from truth.
If you enjoyed this video about the terrifying creatures in the Bible, be sure to check out this video next.